We are not licensed medical professionals. The thoughts and opinions expressed on this podcast are meant to share our experiences and not to diagnose or as a form of treatment. If you or anyone you know is currently suffering, respectfully encourage them to seek help from a licensed medical professional. The topics discussed in this podcast may be triggering for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Now Try It with Wine. My name is Mary.
And I'm Des.
And we started this podcast to kind of give ourselves a platform to talk about mental health issues that affect us. We come from a very unique background, I think, from what is currently out there. We're, how do you say it again, Des?
Zillennials.
We're Latina Zillennials.
Zillennials.
And we want to kind of bring a voice to people like us who are struggling with their mental health and are just now beginning to validate their feelings and start to work on themselves and doing that inner self-help BS we're always hearing about on social media. And I have to admit, when I kind of went into my mental health journey, I was struggling to even accept that there was a problem. So my kind of journey really began like a little over a year ago when it was pre-pandemic. So it was over 2 years ago now. Now I feel so like I've been doing this for years.
I'm just so good.
I have so many insights. But mine for me started pre-pandemic, and I was already kind of in a position where I hated my job. I was struggling with keeping my personal relationships good because I was coming into them with bad attitudes and I didn't know why. And on my own like reflection of like how I was feeling, I had this anxiety that I didn't know where it was coming from. So I started talking to my brother about like how I was feeling, and like I struggled a lot with feelings of inadequacy at the beginning. And when I talked to my brother Joey about it, he was always trying to be very encouraging and like, you need to work on it, change the way you're thinking. And of course he's saying these things to me, but he has no clue how I can do them. So he started going to a psychologist, and then he started encouraging me to go to a psychologist. And I didn't really want to go because there's a whole stigma like in our culture that you're crazy if you go to a medical professional for mental health.
Only crazy people go.
Yeah, like there's a stigma to and if you're taking medicine, like they look at you like you should be in a nut house. And so when he first brought it up, I didn't want to do it. I thought it was crazy. I thought people were going to think I'm crazy if I admit that I'm even going. But after he started going and he started having those same conversations with me again, his insight changed and he started giving me ideas on stuff to try. And it got me excited about it, but he's not a professional. Like, he can only help me so he can get me my conversation going, but he can't help me see through it.
Right.
So then I decided to start talking to the same counselor he was, and it totally changed my life and the way I kind of view things. I still struggle even now, and I've been going to her for almost 2 years now. I think in February it'll be 2 years. But I feel so much better than I did when it started.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I'm at with my mental health. Is like it's a work in progress, but I feel like I've already been in it. I've done a lot of like the groundwork at this point.
I mean, you're doing great, and obviously it's not going to be in 2 months that everything's ready. So, I mean, obviously continue going. I'm not going to counseling. I feel like I should be, but I'm going to be honest, I can't really afford it at this time. And my reason starting this is, again, we're not licensed professionals. I don't even got a degree yet.
But I got degrees and they ain't going to help nobody.
It's just more so, at least hearing someone else talk about this, I would have liked to hear that myself. So doing this podcast is more so for someone else that needs help. Maybe they can afford it, or they just need to hear that someone else is going through the same thing.
Yeah, and I do have degrees, and I'm currently getting a degree right now, and we're talking a lot about connectivism. And when I was thinking about it, of course it applies in the business world if you're familiar with the theory, which is basically that no one's handicapped as long as you have access to resources. And I'm hoping that with this podcast, we can act as a resource for other people. So even if like you, Des, who can't afford right now to go to a medical professional for advice, I can. So if I share my knowledge with you, you're not any less handicapped or capable of handling it if we're talking with each other.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not looking for answers from you, but it's just more so like
validation.
It's a good step forward. Like, I'm not crazy, and these feelings are real.
And our culture does a really bad job of validating how we feel. It's never about you as an individual, it's about the family as a whole.
Right.
Like your feelings become irrelevant when you're in service of the family. And I think that that's something that I don't think is necessarily like specific to our culture, but I do think it's more prevalent in minority cultures. For that kind of like, because we're a little guy, we have to think of the bigger picture. So we recently had a family member reach out and ask us where the title of our podcast came from. And it was a really funny story. Des kind of came up with it, and she had this really funny little like tagline to it that just sold me.
I told Mary we went through the trauma sober, so now let's try it drunk. Because before, we would get drunk and talk about it.
With hard liquor, Jello shots, tequila, vodka, Jaeger.
I don't know. I'm more of a tequila vodka girl.
That Jaeger killed me for 3 days.
I hate Jaeger. I like Fireball.
I think a part of my soul died drinking that Jaeger. So wine was our compromise. And now we're going to drink wine and have ourselves a little chat. So I'm hoping this podcast journey will help not only us continue to grow, but help you as the audience grow with us.
So I do help you continue listening. Thank you so much.
Peace out, homies.